Hi, if you are having trouble with wasps, this video is for you. I am going to tell you 10 things about wasps that professional pest controllers know that you probably don't, and knowing them is going to make you have a much happier time during the wasp season. My name is Amy Kelly. I'm a passionate gardener, but I've also been a professional pest controller for over a decade, and every summer I am called upon to deal with lots of wasps. Please like and subscribe because we've got lots more great videos coming soon, but right now let's get stuck into insider wasp information. Tip number 1. First of all, if you don't already know this, wasps can sting you as many times as they like. They're not like bees where they sting you once and that's them dead. A wasp can sting you over and over and over and over and over and over again as many times as it likes. It does not hurt the wasp at all. Wasp tip number 2. Once you have been stung once, there's no point sitting there going, oh, it's stinging me. It's just going to keep stinging you. So if a wasp lands on you and stings you, immediately, really hard, slap down onto the wasp to kill it, and very, very quickly, as fast as you can, leave the area. Once you have been stung by a wasp, it will spray an aggressive chemical onto you that tells every other wasp in the neighborhood, come and sting this person. So you need to leave that area really quickly. If you get stung, really hard, fast slap to kill the wasp to stop it stinging you again, and then run away because there are going to be other wasps coming after you. Wasp tip number 3. Anybody can develop an allergy to wasp stings at any time. So it doesn't matter if you've never been stung before, if you've been stung 1,000 times before, you can at any point suddenly develop an allergy. Wasp tip number 4. If you are walking along and a whole bunch of wasps start flying at you, do not stand there doing this. Okay, that's the worst thing you can do. They're going to think you're attacking them, they're going to get aggressive, and they're going to sting you. So if you're walking along and wasps start flying around you, you've probably gotten close to one of their nests or a food source that there's a whole load of wasps on. So the best thing you can do is really quickly, really calmly walk away. Get out of that area as quickly as you can. Definitely never slap at wasps. Wasp tip number 5. Wasps only ever use a wasp nest once. So if you've a wasp nest that's in your attic or your roof space from last year, you will never have wasps using that nest again. That's not to say they won't make another nest somewhere nearby, but they never use the same nest twice. Wasp tip number 6. Wasps can make their nests almost anywhere. So wall cavities, in sheds, in garages, up under the eaves of houses, buried into the ground underneath tree roots. They are capable of excavating and making more space for themselves. If they're up in your roof space or in your wall cavity, you will sometimes see them coming out with little mouthfuls of your insulation. Don't think that just because you've got cavity wall insulation or just because you've got loft insulation that wasps can't make a home. They will dig and excavate and chew and make themselves as big a space as they need for their nest. Wasp tip number 7. A mature wasp nest usually has around 5,000 wasps in it. Now this varies based on how warm it is and how soon that nest got started. So think really carefully before tackling a wasp nest yourself, especially if it's later on in the season. Wasp nests start really tiny with just one wasp in them, and then they gradually grow and grow and grow all through the season. So the later on in the year it is, the more wasps there are going to be in the nest. Wasp tip number 8. Wasps love sugar, and they're really programmed for this. Their main food source is insects. Instead of having a little straw proboscis like a bee, they've actually got little mandibles, little teeth, so that they can go out and grab insects and bring them back to the nest to feed the little young baby wasps. So wasps are insectivores, but they have a real sweet tooth. Every time a worker wasp brings a little grub or a spider or a caterpillar back to feed to the baby wasps, the baby wasp rewards it with a tiny little drop of sweet sticky liquid. So especially towards the end of the summer, when the nest is really quite big and the queen stops laying as many eggs, you've suddenly got a whole load of worker wasps who aren't getting their sugar fix and don't have a whole lot to do, and that's when they go out and start making a real nuisance of themselves. Wasp tip number 9. One of the questions I am asked more often than anything else is, what is the point of wasps? Everyone sort of thinks, well, bees make us honey, bees are lovely, but wasps just sting us all the time. What's the point of them? Well, wasps eat insects. Every wasp nest is out there killing thousands and thousands of tiny little caterpillars and spiders and aphids and insects that would otherwise be damaging our crops and making a mess of our gardens. So they really are Mother Nature's pest control. They are phenomenally important in the biodiversity ecosystem. If we didn't have wasps, we would be overrun with other pest insects. And lastly, wasp tip number 10. So the wasp nest life cycle is really simple. Queen wasp hibernates over the winter, wakes up in the spring, goes out, makes a tiny little nest. I'm going to show you one of those in a moment. And then slowly over the course of the summer, the nest grows and grows and grows and grows and grows. The last thing it does before that nest dies off is make a whole lot of new queen wasps for next year. And they fly off and they mate, and then they go off and hibernate as well. Each wasp nest is going to make 1,000 or 2,000 queen wasps for next year. No exaggeration. Now, a lot of those are going to die from being eaten by birds, from exposure to too much cold because they chose a bad spot to hibernate, but a surprising number of them are going to carry on and live. So if you've had a wasp nest at your property this year, you probably won't end up with any of the queens from that exact nest making a nest at your property next year, but one of the queens from any of the nests from miles around could potentially come back to you. Remember, wasps aren't the enemy. They're a really valuable part of our ecosystems, but when they make our homes somewhere that is dangerous for us, then it's reasonable and realistic to do something about those nests. There are thousands of different wasp and bee and hornet species, but the ones that you're likely to encounter as a pest, the ones that are going to ruin your picnic in summer and autumn, basically boil down to one of three species. There's Vespula vulgaris, Vespula germanica, and Vespula alasiensis. Basically, they all look really, really similar. You'll sometimes hear these called paper wasps or hornets or yellow jackets. They go by all sorts of different names, but we're really talking about three species that all look very similar and act in exactly the same way. What I've got here is a queen wasp and some little worker wasps. Now, as you can see, she is quite a lot bigger than the workers. Wasps tend to have this really vibrant black and yellow colouring. And you can see that it looks quite shiny and smooth, almost spidery as opposed to soft and fuzzy. So this is the easiest way to tell the difference between wasps and bees. Bees tend to be fuzzier and rarely would have that intense of a colour. So that really vibrant yellow, you are dealing with a wasp. If you have a nest like this is a wasp. This is a paper wasp or a yellow jacket or a European wasp or whatever you want to call it. This is a wasp nest. The reason why one of the common names for these is paper wasps is because that nest is basically made out of paper. And I happen to have a nest here that I am going to show you. This is what we call an extinct nest. It's dead. You can really see the difference in size there between the worker wasp and the queen wasp. The most important difference between worker wasps and queen wasps is that the queen wasps survive over the winter. So if you have a nest somewhere on your house or your property this year, the last thing that nest is going to do before it dies off is make 1,000 or 2,000 queen wasps. Those queen wasps are going to mate, and then they're going to go off and hibernate over the winter. And then in the spring, when the weather gets warm enough, they're triggered to wake up and they go out and they start making a nest. And I'll show you what that looks like. So this tiny little ball here is a queen's nest. So that queen wasp builds this first structure. It's so delicate. It is literally made of paper. So I am going to show you what is inside one of these. So as you can see, there's a few outer layers. And if we peel those back, the queen has built this up layer by layer by layer. And right in the middle, you can see there, we have the little egg chambers. So this is where the queen lays the very first batch of eggs. They'll hatch out into little grubs, sort of like little caterpillars or little maggots, and the queen goes out and hunts for small insects and spiders to bring back and feed to those young until those are old enough to cap over the top of those little egg chambers. They'll go into like a little cocoon, just like a butterfly, and then they'll hatch out as lovely wasps. And once they're to that point, the queen crawls inside the nest and she just lays eggs from then on out. And all of the workers slowly grow and grow and grow and grow and grow that nest all through the summer and all through the autumn until it gets very big indeed. What is this amazing papery nest made of? And I have a larger piece here just so I can show you. It is so light and delicate. So this is an outer section of wasp nest, and you can see that it is made up of lots of little hollow air chambers. So this again is like the insulation around the eggs. This is what helps to keep all the wasps and the little baby grubs and the little hatchlings safe and warm inside the nest. So it's really delicate, it's really brittle. It is not going to stop anything from breaking through into the nest. It just purely is there for temperature control, and it is absolutely stunning. If you look at the colouring on this, you can see that it's made up of lots of individual bands or stripes of different colours. The way that this is made, the wasps go off and they chew tiny little strips of wood off of fences and trees and anything that's made out of timber. They then masticate that, they chew it up and mix it with their saliva and spit it out in these beautiful little lines. It's basically wasp paper mache. That's all it is. It's just wood pulp mixed with saliva. And each one of those beautiful, intricate little coloured stripes is a different section of wood that a different wasp has gone and retrieved. So you get these absolutely beautiful little structures. So this is the outer layer that protects what's inside the nest. And what's inside the nest are plates and plates of this. Now that is not honeycomb, it is just made of paper, just like the rest of the nest. It is all completely made of paper, wood pulp and wasp saliva. But it is the same honeycomb structure that bees use and make out of wax. But because it's made out of paper, it takes vastly less energy. They can put this together so much more quickly. Now it's not as durable as wax, but the way that the wasp life cycle works, it should only ever need to last for 1 year, and it's certainly capable of doing that. So inside the nest itself, there is going to be plates and plates of this paper honeycomb substance. And they just rest one on top of each other. You can see the little tiny supports there that hold the layers separate from each other. So inside that outer insulating structure of the nest, you've got layers and layers of this honeycomb-like substance just stacked together like plates with a little gap between each layer. Remember, it starts out really tiny and then over the course of the summer it gradually gets larger and larger and larger. So these honeycomb structures start out really small, like we saw in our queen nest to start with. And then over time, as the nest gets bigger and bigger and bigger, those structures get bigger and bigger and bigger as well. If you've been watching my channel, you will probably be thinking to yourself, hang on, this woman keeps telling me to bring wildlife into my garden, and then I find out she's a pest controller. What's going on here? So first of all, I only ever deal with any sort of pest, whether it's rats, mice, wasps, if it is posing a direct risk to human health and safety. If you've got a wasp nest in the back of a field that you never need to go to, my advice is leave it there. Wasps are a valuable part of the ecosystem. Destroying every single wasp nest that you find is not a smart way to go about doing things. Secondly, wasps are doing absolutely fine. The incredibly small number of nests that we destroy is not going to have any impact on them as a species. They are the opposite of endangered. They are loving this whole warmer summers, milder winters, climate change thing. It's working out really well for them. So at some point in future, if that changes, then we would reassess things. But if you've got an allergy to wasps, or your kids have got an allergy to wasps, and you have got a nest right above your front door or in the kids' playhouse, then of course it is reasonable, it is legal, it is responsible to get rid of that nest. So if you do have a pest problem, please contact a responsible pest controller who can help you sort it out. But if the so-called pest is not being a problem, if you just happen to have a wasp nest right at the back of your yard somewhere you don't need to go, just leave it be. Let nature take its course, because it is important that we have some of these creatures for natural balance.